All right, to preview this week's third round 1A matchup, we got Kool Hits 105.7 and Raceland Commentator for their live games, Mr. James Collier. Mr. Collier, how's it going, man?
Hey guys, thanks for joining me and thanks for having me in. And this should be a great week of football coming up. I think this one on the matchup, you look at it, it's going to be a phenomenal atmosphere of not just single A football. It's going to be across the state. It's going to be one of the best games of the entire state.
Yes, sir.
Legit, man. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate taking time out tonight, man. First, I want to just jump right into it. This is an impressive team, man. Looks like they had to play up a few times in their losses. They had a good game against Highlands. They had to play up, which is a 4A, 5A team. They had to play up against LCA, which is, of course, a 2A powerhouse. Man, do you think those games there prepare them for what they're going to see going into the playoffs?
Absolutely. You look at the three losses that the Rams took this year. They lost to Ashland, which was a 4A team, but just lost to Covington Catholic this past week. They lost to Highlands, as you said, who is still in the playoffs and one of the top teams in Class 5A. And then you look at LCA, a powerhouse there in 2A, and probably arguably the Hensley kid, one of the best running backs in the entire state of Kentucky. So of their three losses to two 9-1 teams, one 10-0 team in the regular season. And, they took one on the chin against Highlands. And coming out of that game, and they got back into their classification, and it almost seemed like the game was just slowing down. It was moving at a much different pace. And even with the LCA game, I talked with Coach Charles from LCA after the game, and he said, I was really impressed with what Raceland brought to the table. We scheduled this game because we knew they were going to give us a tune-up that we hadn't seen for a couple of weeks in the postseason as well. He said, I fully expect to see Raceland on the carpet coming up in December.
Yes, sir. Now, like you saying that, but on the carpet, coming back from that loss in the championship game last season, how motivated was this team and Coach Southern?
Oh, it was tough. You 15 seniors last year, and you felt like that was the expectation last year was get to the carpet. They had a very big upper class team last year, 31 total upperclassmen, 16 of those seniors this year. But they had a lot of places that had to be replaced. A lot of that across the offensive line. And they've had some injuries along the way. They've gotten healthy over the last few weeks, and really up front is where they've been really solid because when you've got a pair of running backs like Noah Wallace and Jackson Height in the backfield, and you've got Logan Lundy that can go down the field, you've got to give those guys the opportunities to do their work. And that's something that Raceland's been able to do. Coach Sammons, he kids about it all the time. One of his favorite quotes, he said, there's two things that don't survive in November: dogs who try to cross the road and teams that can't run the football and stop the run in November. So,
Yes.
it's kind of one of those jokes that's around there, but it's a true thing. And, Raceland really showed the way that they wanted to run the football against Frankfort on Friday night. They went to the air when they needed to, but this is a game that, again, you look at what the Pennington kid does behind center, and then he can sling it around with the best of them. And again, you've got a name against Pennington across your back. You better be able to throw the football.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know if you had a chance to check some of that Sayre Paris game out. Y'all beat Paris early in the year, pretty good. It was a pretty good game. A pretty good Paris team. Were you surprised of the outcome of that game? Because Paris has the athletes. Sayre, probably a little more disciplined. You know what I'm saying, and been together a little longer. Was you surprised by the outcome?
The two things about the Paris game that I said was going to be the biggest outcome. I felt like Paris had the better athletes, but the discipline issue was the thing that I said the most. And I said, if the discipline side of things comes into play, then I think you turn the balance there to Sayre. But 7 turnovers in one football game, when you're behind the turnover battles on a -7, that makes things very, very difficult. Again, this is an undefeated Sayre team. I don't care who you're playing. If you're undefeated this far in the season, you're doing something right.
Now, a lot of folks may sit back. I'm sorry, Coach, trying to cut you off, but a lot of folks may sit back and look and say, man, look at you all straight the schedule. Look at you play. Look at Sayre. Part of the biggest win maybe is this Paris win. Do you sit back and think that you can throw those schedules out of the way now? Does it make a difference? Do you think it's playing in the kids' minds like, hey, we face a little bit tougher road than they have. So we should be ready for a team like Sayre.
Well, the thing that I think that you got to look at what Raceland has going forward on one side of things, they were the road warriors at the very beginning of the season. They didn't play their first home game until September 15th. So they had two road games, their bye week, and then on the road. And that last road game was at Pikeville. So they know what it feels like to be on the road. The backside of that is that, and this goes for both teams, when you're playing elimination football, and especially when you're a senior, you know that next 48 minutes may be the last time you put that jersey on. So that desperation, that inspiration, that motivation right there across both sides is going to play in a lot of this football game. And again, which team can control the run, which team can control the turnover battle. Those are your two biggest keys against two teams like this that are very balanced, very well coached, very disciplined. This one should be a dynamite football game.
I guess the biggest thing, looking at the matchups, I know it's going to be, can Sayre stop the run and control that front line, which we thought they might have a problem with Paris because they're big and they're a physical team that likes to run. And then how does Raceland match up with Sayre's passing attack?
Well, it's funny you say that because I think that both teams' Achilles are the other team's strengths. Mm-hmm. It starts with Noah Wallace in the backfield, a senior running back that has had a great career in Raceland in his 3 seasons. And talking with Coach Sammons in the offseason, he said that Noah really bought into the weight room. He bought into changing his body. And, being around him for the 3 years, I've seen the progression of where he is. But he's a kid that I've watched him drag kids down the field that are trying to stop him, and he's dragging them for 5 and extra 10 yards. He sprung a 56-yarder from the line of scrimmage on the first play of the game the other night against Frankfurt. He's got breakaway speed, but he's a dynamic defensive player as well. So you put Jackson Height that's in the mix. Height was kind of more of a rollback last year. He was more of the fourth man in the stable. He's put himself in that second guy's piece. Had 2 running touchdowns last week. He and Wallace both, they like to get behind their pads. They like to get north and south, not a lot of east-west stuff. So I think that's the biggest thing is when you've got a high-powered passing attack, what Sayre brings to the table, you got to kill your best defense is keeping them on the sidelines. So long sustained drives by the Rams, I think, is huge. On the backside of that, I think the biggest Achilles heels for the Rams this season has been slowing down the passing. And when you've got a couple of good targets, which Sayre has, obviously, and you've got Pennington that can throw it across the field anywhere he wants it, as far down the field as he wants it. I think those deep balls are something that he has opportunities to go. The Rams, though, they've got to find a way to get them in 3rd and longs or behind the sticks early on and force them into those to where it's a true passing attack, to where you can kind of sit back and maybe clog some of those zones up.
Now, real quick before we go, we talked about this running game, and you mentioned Logan Lundy a little bit, man. Can you talk about how great of a season he's had? Over 1,400 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Seems like y'all a run-heavy team with a lot of touches, 74, 75, 123, different rushing attempts. But how special is Logan Lundy being for this offense?
Logan Lundy, his progression has been remarkable from his sophomore year to his junior year. He had a really good junior season last year, set the school record for passing touchdowns. This year, he lost most of his skill guys on the outside. Parker Phantom was the only kid that returned. They had the two sophomores and Bryson Rousey and Parker Ison on the outside. So timing was a little bit of an issue early on, trying to figure out how to get things moving where they wanted to go. But the one thing I've really noticed about Lundy this year is, for the most part, he's not tried to force issues into bad situations. He's taken the safe play. He's not tried to put it in a place to where it's going to cause harm. And if he sees something break down, the one thing you got to remember about him, he's not afraid to tuck it and run. And he is a very big-bodied kid, about 225. So when you get to him, if you try to arm tackle him, he's going to run through it, and he is not afraid to run the contact as well. Lundy is his motivation is he got to the carpet last year and came up short. As a senior, he wants to go out with that first ever state championship. Raceland, they've been there twice, have never got it done. They're really feeling like this is another great opportunity to get there and maybe get it done this trans.
Man, that sounds great. We kind of know what to be looking forward to. We've kind of seen Raceland a little bit, like I said, with the Paris game and LCA, and we've seen them on both ends, so we know what to expect. You got any predictions for the game?
I'm not gonna go out there and throw some stuff up on bulletin boards. I think I've done enough of that here locally lately. But The thing that I'm really looking forward to is I think this is going to be a great football game.
Yeah.
I don't look for this to be any form of a running clock on either side. I've spoken with Chad several times when I was doing stuff with Marshall, and he was still up there. And I think the world of Chad Pennington and everything that he does. You can really see his discipline and what he's brought into that program there at Sayre, and how much he's transformed that program in. So I got all the respect for Chad and what he's done for his program, and really looking forward to see him. On the backside of that, I got to say, I probably wouldn't be allowed to go to work tomorrow if I didn't say, Rams are going to win this one and move on to Black Friday. But I think the biggest thing I look at is that I think Raceland's running attack is really going to pay dividends this weekend. And if Sayre is going to be able to find a way to knock the Rams off, I think they're going to have to take away that running attack, put them in third and longs and distance behind the sticks to force them to have to go down the field with a passing attack. But if they cannot do that, and it's 5-6 yards at a chunk between Noah Wallace, he's a kid that can go out there and can carry the load 25, 30 times a night if he needs to. He's been very well rested over the last month as well. So, he put up 100 yards against the LCA, and that's a very good defense in that LCA team. So, he's a kid that he can get downhill on you. He has breakaway speed, but I think that's the biggest issue in this game is, can they stop that rushing attack?
Hey, Ms. James, man, we appreciate Jordan, man. Your reputation precedes you all down there in racing for sure. Y'all that other bully in 1A other than Pikeville. So it's definitely interesting to see you all in Sayre come Friday. It's gonna be a good game.
That it should be, guys. I greatly appreciate the time.